Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Thirsty Thursday live stream. Hopefully, everyone's having an awesome week. I'm super stoked to have a new guest, a buddy and a friend in the community and doing great things. So, August, go ahead and introduce yourself. What have you been up to? What's happening in your world? And yeah, let's hear it.
Hi, my name is August Vansickle. I'm a current red team operator for a government red team. I've been in InfoSec for about 5 years, started network engineering. I was a senior CTI analyst for 2.5 years, built a CTI program for MSSP, and then I worked MDR at Sophos, and now I'm a red teamer. Previous Navy, previous national security intel as well, mostly GEOINT, and just excited to be here.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for your service, dude. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And yeah, man. So, doing red teaming, obviously, we had some introduction on the internet by talking about a post that I did. And so, like, for those folks, maybe like even for myself, just educating people, because we use these questions, we use this like the same shit. Oh, I'm a red teamer, but meanwhile, I never touch C2 frameworks. I just touch Kali Linux and Metasploit and this, and I'm just testing and whatever. So for those folks that maybe, intertwine, even vulnerability, say, oh, I'm a pen tester, but really I'm just a vulnerability guy and I just run Qualys, right? So what are the main differences and how can someone learn to differentiate maybe the two or the three, like a vulnerability assessor or pen tester and a red teamer?
I think there's some nuance for sure. I started out red teaming, so I never did pen testing itself. So I think the way to describe it is like pen testing is more you're testing vulnerabilities. You're actively auditing those things and seeing if they work out or the conditions exist. With red teaming, we do that as well, but we have to be more quiet about it. Mm-hmm. And it's also more about emulating TTPs more so. And you're looking for telemetry and detection gaps and things, also AD misconfigurations, which is also somewhat what pen testing does. So that's where like it gets nuanced, I think. And then also the tooling. I'm not really sure how pen testers work with EDRs, but we are expected, of course, to be able to be quiet even with those and network tools as well. So that's the way I look at it. And honestly, we don't do it this way. In my personal opinion, based on, like, for example, Jorge or Keely's, like his class, I think red teaming should also be more prepared. What I would like to do with our team, and I haven't been able to get leadership to buy off on it, is using my CTI skills to kind of look at when we're doing testing for a client, like who would target them. So when you look at industry and who typically targets in that industry, like location and like what kind of like organization they are. And then you look at observed past TTPs that have been used by those threat groups, and then you can use that as an attack plan. I wish we could do that. I haven't been able to get leadership to sign off on that, but that's another addition thing I think the red team.
Yeah, I think that is super, super interesting, right? Like, say, for example, you work at a financial firm or a hospital, like, okay, how can we use these TTPs and put a red team in place in order for us to see, okay, how would a bad guy, TTP adversary, go after a financial firm or a medical industry, blah, 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 and then tackle that and try to, but to go back to your point with your red teaming and invading EDRs and trying to stay stealthy and all that good stuff, I think pen testing, I guess it all depends. Because I think with pen testing, we're throwing every single tool at it, spray and pray pretty much. And it's like, we don't give a shit. We can just light it up. And, the objective is to, see if we can get whatever objective, right? Everyone thinks, oh, I just need domain admin and I'm cooking. That, maybe that doesn't really mean anything. If you're a DA, what if there's a piece of PII or PHI sitting on a server that, that person never found. So it's like, I have DA, but I never really knew how to use the skill to maneuver laterally and get into the server. That really means a lot, So
I think that's one thing that I show with the blue team. We go up against the same blue team a lot of times. We also work with a lot of clinics and hospitals for context, but I'm not sure that they understand sometimes that part of what we are doing is like for example, they block our open VPN usage that gets us into the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, congratulations, you've won, but not really, because we need to test every stage of the attack chain in order to know that you have that detection coverage. You're only hurting yourself if you're not allowing. That's the whole idea behind assumed breach, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
you're skipping that part because you want to access. Because like if someone gets inside but they can't move, then you effectively have trapped them. So you've won as a blue team typically. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to see if you can stop us in every stage. That way, you know you have coverage. So,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really good point. Because blue teams, I think where they really focus on is just mostly just the detection. Like, okay, I have CrowdStrike or MDE or Sophos or whatever, and I contain in a device because maybe some weird process is running. It's like, oh shit, we need to take this offline. But what if that's just like a droplet, and like, oh, I'm just like a decoy. Like now you guys are just fucking chilling there for a minute. Now I'm just over here while all you guys are just here focusing. So it's like you said, like weaponization, like all like the attack chain and going through all these steps. It's super critical. So how important do you think it is for maybe like someone's listening in, like, they may not, we spoke a little bit about this off air, right? Like, there's so much information out there and a lot of people mislead folks just because of whatever reason, right? So how important do you think it is to understand maybe the SOC, the blue team, and understanding that part as my goal is to be a red teamer? Do you think it's beneficial to know both? And it's like, no, I don't need to know blue team just because, my focus is on the red.
So for the record as well, I'm glad you brought that up so I could say I'm a former blue teamer. So if you hear me being critical of blue teams, it's because I want to see them do better, not because I'm trying to be anti-blue team. I really wish blue and red would be on the same page because I see a lot of my two blue team friends take it a little personal. So here's what I think. I think on a red team or any team that you're on, this is something that's discussed a lot in CTI, actually, in the intelligence world and conventional intelligence as well. Having a diverse team is important. Because you want people from different backgrounds to bring different things. Because there may be something I don't know that someone else knows. And I do think that is a strength for me. So when I was at Sophos, because I was second shift and we worked weekends sometimes, I would have to change detection rules. Sometimes we have a rule that's causing a lot of false positives. We have a lot of IRs that are going on. We don't need to focus on these false positives. So we've changed it, like kind of quiet down the detection for that specific alert. And understanding those detection rules and what gets triggered and how it gets triggered, having worked those alerts and done the recon. I did a talk recently, and I think one thing that people don't think about is there are several things that have to go right in order to be detected and caught, so to say. So you have to have a detection that is, well, sorry, let me back up. You have to have telemetry that covers. Because you may have a detection rule, but if there's not telemetry for it, you're not going to detect it. So you have to know what it is. And then once there's a rule and you have telemetry for it, it generates an alert. It can be 30, 45 minutes before that alert pops up in that queue. And then how busy is that SOC? Like, when I was at Sophos, we were getting crushed. And sometimes we were 2 or 3 hours behind alerts. That's 2 to 3 hours plus the 45 minutes the alert had to generate. The attacker has time. And a lot of what we saw was ransomware. So they're doing spray and pray, trying to get there as quickly as they can. So understanding that whole lifestyle. And then there's also, does the analyst know how to look for root cause analysis? Have they found any kind of persistence? Is it a second stage payload or is that initial payload? Did it get downloaded? All these kind of things lead to if you're going to be successful as a blue team. And so thinking as a red teamer, that's what I look at. And I do think it's something we could do better on my red team, but there's a lot of people on my red team who are they're hackers and they're pierced in hacking. They're not as open to these other things, but I'm trying to break them down. So
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the reason why I brought that up, because, people get into, this side of the world, the red side, just maybe and we'll talk about CTFs later, like maybe a CTF, they got on Hack the Box and whatever, Try Hack Me or Phone Labs and Phone Hub, whatever. And it's like, oh, this is cool. I want to get into pen testing and then lead into red teaming, like you said, payloads and, all this other stuff. But it's like, how are these being detected? How are, the blue side going in for the kill, so you guys can invade that, or, go in like a detour, So yeah, having that diverse understanding of both is really, really critical. But oh, I forgot to put this in the, forgot to say this in the, if you guys have any questions, just throw it in the chat. And usually like the last 15, 20 minutes of the show, we'll go through that, and because if I start answering questions, then it'll lose the rhythm here. And then then I'll go fucking jibber jabber. But, so yeah, so that's cool. And I guess we can just segue into CTFs, right? So, there's, I don't want to bring names up, but there's people that, hate CTFs, love CTFs, or maybe in the middle. So what are your, August's opinion on CTFs? And let's like dive into, maybe the misconceptions of CTFs, or the good, the bad, the ugly, the greatness.
So my team, we do jump on some CTFs like through Hack the Box, and I think they have a value. I think for me, I will admit that I'm not stellar at them. I typically, recently I'm trying to learn reverse engineering, so I go after the binary exploitation and the reverse engineering ones. Mm-hmm. I think they have a place, and I think there are guys on my team who are really good CTFers who are also really good red teamers. Mm-hmm. But I don't think just because you're bad at CTFs that you're bad at like red teaming. Like, I'm not that great at CTFs. I'm doing pretty good as a red teamer. As long as you understand, because there are pieces to CTFs where it is a straight line in the way that you are trying to hack something and get a flag or whatever the prize is. But as a red teamer, it's more open-ended. There are goals like, testing vulnerabilities, finding misconfigurations, emulating things, are they detecting it, finding gaps. Like, it's much more open on that side. So I think just because you're good at one thing and you're bad at the other doesn't necessarily mean the end of the world. So
cool. Yeah, I do like that. And I wanted to touch on that because, prior to like the Stinger in the chat, he's someone that's on my Hack the Box team. And like prior to actually starting to do Hack the Box, maybe 7 months ago now, or 6 months ago, whatever, I'll do like a retired machine just to have a piece of video content. Like, oh, let me just walk through this, or walk through just to have a video out there, right? So I don't know what else to do. Let me just do a walkthrough. And then, but I never really got into like, getting into them, because I was like, I just felt like it was really didn't do much for me. Right. Yeah. Like you said, like, you do you do the same thing. It's like an assumed breach, or it's just like a one standalone machine. And obviously now you have the pro labs. Now you're going to be, using different tools to move laterally, move into different networks, and it's a little more realistic. But like the standalone machines, I always felt like I wasn't really learning much. Yeah, if that makes sense. And now it's like, okay, now it's like Saturday with the homies. Now we can just do a Hack the Box machine together. But
right,
I like that you said that. So for everyone, so I guess my question is now, I'm the new kid on the block. I saw August put some cool shit out on LinkedIn or his page or whatever. And I reached out and I said, hey, where should I start? I want to be like August when I grow up. What do I need to do?
So this is what I did. When I really started, I started on TryHack Me Hack the Box. So I think TryHack Me is the better platform to start on to learn like basic methodology and start doing, because they're a little bit easier. Hack the Box can be, even the medium ones are pretty tough sometimes. But the way I use Hack the Box is they have so many that you can do. It's a good way to, with the retired machine specifically, because I don't think people should worry about jumping in. There's so many boxes to do. If you need to use some walkthroughs, use some walkthroughs. Yeah. I think the idea is building a methodology and then also running into different technologies, different web servers, different CMS technologies, different AD. So that's where I use Hack the Box, is get familiar with specific technologies. Like when I see this come back an Nmap scan for the server, then I know, hey, this is how I should test this, like WordPress, Jenkins, Drupal, all those kind of things. That's how I got to know those. And then the way that I progressed in getting towards certification was I started the PJPT, which is a TCM cert. It's an internal pen test. That was a good start. And then I actually did EGAPT version 2 from INE. It was an okay. I had a voucher, so it was just kind of a give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Then PMBT was a step up where, your external OSINT, the whole, spectrum. And then from there, once I passed that, gone with the OSCP. It took me 2 attempts, but I kind of progressed through it quickly. And I do think the OSCP has a place, and I'm not centered on any one kind of certification. I think they all have their certain values.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the thing about the OSCP is you have to learn PrivEsk, you have to learn some other things that maybe you don't have to do in PMPT. I think they both have their place.
Mm-hmm.
As a red teamer, I feel more confident having done something like the OSCP. Mm-hmm. I also think I haven't taken CPTS, but I think I would feel the same about CPTS. And then I went to CRTO after that, which was important as a red teamer because you use Cobalt Strike. And CRTO really covers a lot of the entire chain of attacks, including like more advanced Kerberos and like Vansickle and exiting out that. And so that was my path, and I think it's a pretty good path, but everybody has their own path.
No, yeah, and I love that, and I feel the same. I did pretty much. I didn't do. So I guess my OSCP, I don't have an OSCP. I got gypped. 7 years ago, I had a whole thing with OSCP, offensive security. Back then, I bought a fake voucher, and someone stood up an environment. This was before I knew about the whole world, so I got really fucked. But fast forward, then like last year, I started doing more certifications in the industry. Yeah. So that's when I was like, okay, I want to resume, and that's when I did the PJPT for the first ones, like get back into the groove of testing again.
Yeah.
So, and you're definitely right? Like you're inside a network, and it's really good foundation to get those tools cooking. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to take it the next step, obviously, like you said, you take the PMPT, you're on the outside, you do your little recon, you do your little stuff. And you are right about the PrivEsk. And I even put that in my review video, right? Like you don't really have to PrivEsk anywhere in the PMPT, whereas from what you just said, I don't know, like OSCP, maybe, it's more PrivEsk focused, like you're on maybe low privilege on maybe a Linux box and you have to like PrivEsk and blah, blah, blah. And then, CRTO is a whole different ball game, right? Like that's a no comparison, in my opinion, that, for like PMPT or I don't know, OSCP. But so speaking of the OSCP, like, did you get it from like work or you paid out of pocket? Because it's an expensive cert, right?
So funny story. It said on my company's HR page, the reimburse specifically OSCP. So you have to front it. So I did, and once you pass, then you can ask for a refund.
Okay.
They didn't grant it to me. They took it away. But my mindset is, I get paid. Like pay in this field is pretty good, and my attitude has been for the last couple of years is I'm going to take a certain fraction what I get paid and reinvest in myself.
Fair enough.
So it does suck that it costs what it does. And I'm actually working. So I took the OSCP on its own voucher, but I'm working on the OffSec pass right now. I have through the middle of June. So I'm trying to knock out the OSC3, as well as a couple other ones. But I just invested in myself. My current company will reimburse, but I still buy a lot more training than I'm going to get reimbursed for. So.
Yeah. And speaking, you did. That's how I just said what's up to you, like the OSEP, right? Yeah. Now, you have the OSCP, and then you're like, okay, let's step it up. So what is because I don't know anything about the OSEP. So my question, because, if things get settled, I'm thinking about doing some of the OffSec search just to, to be a little more marketable because people want these certs, even if, CPTS, I think is way harder than OSCP, right? Yeah, so like, but the CPTS is like, if you're in the community, the value of it. But if you're HR or a hiring manager that, you're just a cybersecurity manager that you need a pen tester because, this is the new hot thing, and someone has an OSCP and then someone has a CPTS may not, line up like someone with an OSCP because this is more industry standard or industry gold, right? So now you stepped up a notch, right? Now you did the OSEP. So what is the main difference between OSCP and OSEP? And like, if someone has their CPTS, yeah, I know you haven't taken it yet, but like, should I like say, for example, if I'm like, okay, I want to go do some OffSec certs, should I just say, screw the OSCP because I have CPTS and go for OSEP? Or how would that compare? Like, what would you recommend?
I think it depends on where you're going. So I'll say for Millennium, like my PM will run things by us and see if like we're interested in interviewing people. And honestly, when I interview people, I ask them just to know the pen testing level of methodology, external methodology. I think CPT, well, for us, for sure, CPTS will be recognized. And we recognize TCM. Actually, that's one of the things, the other company on our contract that did not end up hiring me, they saw TCM. One of my buddies on the team actually was the person that pushed that. So I think it just depends. With the bigger companies in the private sector, I'm not really sure. I think I would probably still, if you're looking to get seen, and this was a problem for me too, until I got the OSCP, I didn't get a lot of looks. And unfortunately, that's part of the game you have to play. I think right now in the private sector, there's still an OSCP, but I'm also not in the private sector, so I don't want to speak too loudly on that. The difference between OSEP and OSCP is, to me, first of all, you need to learn how to build a more evasive payload, like process injection, process hollowing, and because there are a couple of things that you can't execute on that test without a evasive payload. It's not all that evasive. Like, I think that their systems are not updated, because in today's day and age, those probably wouldn't work on their own in that way. You have to do some more sophisticated evasive payloads, but that's part of it. More advanced Kerberos is also on it. Honestly, if you've taken in what's the CRTP, honestly, what I did is I studied for CRTP, and I was like, I have this pass. And I was like, I'm just on a weekend. I was like, I'm just going to jump in there and enumerate. Because my attitude with having the OffSec pass is like, I can take a look at these tests. If I don't pass, I don't feel bad, because then I know what's on it. Yeah. I know what to expect the time I'm really ready. I honestly jumped in on a Sunday. Sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, because so you have like the ultimate pass for the year, so you can take as many exams. So that's fucking dope. So like for $6,000, that definitely, like, I'm not going to, you never have that anxiety like, oh fuck, like if I fail, at least you have that note taken for those 48 hours and like, I want to crush it the next time because now I know. I love it.
Chunk of money, but it to me, it's the best value. You don't have to worry about paying for another test. You're just, and I took the Mac OS exploit dev like a month ago, and then I jumped into the Windows one and almost passed it. I had the flags. My process injection wasn't clean enough, so I got to work on that. And honestly, my mindset was like, well, I can just get better at this, so that when I am past it, then I can jump in that real exploit dev. But back to the OSEP, I just want to say one more piece. The CRTP actually prepared me. So I jumped into that Sunday. I was just going to enumerate and see what it looks like. I had 5 flags by the end of the day, and you need 10 to pass. And then I got 5 the next day, and I ended up passing. So it's like, knowing more advanced Kerberos attacks, like unconstrained delegation, constrained delegation. Obviously, like, I don't think I did. I can't remember if I did a DC sync. I don't think there's DC sync on it. But like knowing those kind of things and like more Kerberos attacks, it was enough. So it's a little bit of a step up. I didn't find it to be a huge step up though.
Cool. And so are you doing, like you said, you want to do the OSCE3 or whatever the hell it is?
Yeah.
So are you studying for the OSED or OSWE at the moment? Like, what is your next?
So I don't remember all the letters.
But the web one and the development one.
I took a shot at the Windows one, which is one of the ones, but I got real close, so I'm not worried about it. So I just started 3-month op on web app, like different target web apps at work. So I was like, this is a good time for me to just focus on web app. So I am working on Web 200. I'm going to take the TCM Junior Web Tester one. I might actually take that this weekend. We'll see.
Sweet.
And then I'm going to take Web 200 and then Web 300, because we also do a lot of code review, and I hear that's a big part of Web 300. So that's my focus, is knock out those 2 and then finish up with the Windows exploit dev. And I'm going to pick a weekend to do the Wi-Fi one as well.
OSWP.
Yeah, and then I want to hopefully have time to still take that Mac one as well, because I want to do some Mac research both on the offensive side as well as malware analysis. So
Yeah, that'll be sick. And yeah, and that's where, I know a lot of people bash OffSec for their expensive stuff, but like if you think about it the way you did, and that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, okay, like for $6,000, and like you said, invest in yourself, and it's not a lot. It is a lot. Like even if you're broke, it's not a lot, because if you spend $6,000 for a whole year, what is that? A car payment a month, less than a car payment a month, or whatever, $500 a month or whatever.
yeah,
And now you're getting, you can get every single cert if you can do it in a year, if depending on how hungry you are. So I think that's probably the best route for people to go if they're looking for, because if you say, for example, the main three, like maybe OSWP, the wireless, OSCP, and OSEP, that's fucking $6,000 right there.
Yep.
So why not go to town just doing so? Anyone out there, if they're looking for OffSec, might as well just fucking invest in yourself and spend $6,000.
I don't think any given one thing. I think people who center on one cert. I think it's my Intel background of not being biased in anything. When you want to try and find what is the truth, regardless of what I want to believe, I think there's value in different things. So anybody's listening, I'm not trying to say only go OffSec, but
Oh no,
there is a value. They're not perfect, but there is a value if it's worth it to you.
Yeah. And it's pretty much that gatekeeper, right? Like we said, like, obviously in the private sector or the public sector, it's just like OSCP, it's still the head honcho, and it's true. It's a good one to have to get in the door. And I heard from a friend of mine, he has like CPTS, he has CRTP. Is that the certified red team professional from Altered Security, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's their like first one, and then they have
Yep.
like a couple
And
more.
then he has like 4 or 5 certs, but he doesn't take the OSCP because he has his, I'm not going to spend X amount of dollars for this shitty cert, right? That's his words. And
My friend Doc is like that too. Shout out to Doc.
So yeah, and then he was like, dude, I'm not even getting interviews, and his thing is I can run circles around a lot of people. I'm like, yeah, but just do this OSCP. And he's like, do you think if I really do this, I'll do it in, I do it really quick. And he ended up doing it. And then, like you said, you made a good point. Like once you had that OSCP, then you got started getting looks, So yeah, so OSCP is definitely something that you guys should look at if you're looking to get into the offensive security space. So what about conferences? I want to say, have you gone into any conferences?
Yeah, so I've been to DEF CON twice. I like DEF CON, but it's a lot. It's just overwhelming. But I still like it, but just with the expectation of you're not going to be able to do everything when you go. You got to pick things and make the best of it. I also don't really care for the heat in Vegas, but I wouldn't mind it being somewhere else. But also SleuthCon and CyberWarCon, because I come from that blue team side and specifically CTI. But I like those conferences because it's just one day, but it's packed with great talks that are typically real world. Like, so CyberWarCon is more of APT level, and then SleuthCon is supposed to be crimeware, so ransomware, info stealers, all that kind of stuff. But they typically do talks that were even like, they won't record some of them, or some of them they can't post to YouTube because they have such vital data that could get the people in trouble. There was a guy at CyberWarCon this year in November who did a talk on all of the North Korean fake IT employees, and he'd done a lot of research, and he wore a mask because he didn't want the attribution from those groups. And possibly, these are North Korean APT nation level actors, and he's from a country in that area, so he wanted to protect himself. But I like those as well, and they're really good networking, and I've got to know really cool people from those. So
yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I think conferences have its place too. Like, yeah, DEF CON, I went the last 2 years, or last 3 years, I think now, and yeah, it is very, very overwhelming, and it's like, the last two, yeah, I went. The first year was really overwhelming. The next 2 years was more to like hang out with friends and meet up, at a central place for all the friends to meet up and shoot the shit. But yeah, if it's your first time at like DEF CON, it's remember to go to the villages that you want to go to, especially the Red Team Village. Like I worked the Red Team Village last year,
Yeah.
and I remember the first year, dude, I couldn't even fucking get to the hallway.
One thing. So.
Yeah, like so and it's crazy. Like even when I was working there, I would tell like when I would go to the bathroom or whatever, I would get up and go. I would tell people like, "Yo, like, go walk around. You're never gonna get in.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be a buck with you. You know what I mean? Like, just go. Just you're never gonna get in here. You're fucking the 6,000 person. You know what I mean? Like, what are you just wasting your time here? But that's something you have to like pretty much get there super super early, and it's crazy.
Yep.
But yeah. So what did I want? Oh yeah, networking. So obviously, for jobs and like just like community, and like, what do you think like the importance of like networking with folks, and because maybe some people can be a little like intimidated. Like maybe they see someone like yourself or someone like I'm not no one, but like someone like whoever's in the industry, like, oh, if I say I don't know something, they're gonna judge me or whatever. Because there's people like that, like assholes, right? Fucking scumbags. So like, how do you go about like getting over that fear for these people?
So coming from the Intel background, I think is big for me to understand networking is huge because a lot of things that get done in Intel is from networks and communicating with each other. Like, you have connects in foreign countries. So I always had that built in me. But the story of my first DEF CON really comes down to networking as well. I was hired and I didn't lie on my resume. I didn't lie in my interview, but when Lumen hired me to build a CTI program, I didn't know that's what I was doing. I thought I was joining a team. And so on day one, they're like, we need you to build this program. So part of my calculus is in order to build a program, I should go and meet other CTI analysts that I can learn from. Mm-hmm. And so that I just went to DEF CON on my own. I didn't know anybody. I'd been trying to interact with people on Twitter, but not really having much luck. I was lucky to literally ask for an invite to a dinner in which I met some of my friends. I met my friend Nicole there, and she was a CTI analyst, and she kind of like really introduced me to a lot of people. From there, she invited me. She did a talk at CTI, what's it called? Sands CTI Summit. And I was her guest. So then she introduced me to a bunch of my other friends, buddy John, who's introduced me to so many people. Mm-hmm. So each connection can be like another 5 to 10 connections. And I think the best thing to do is just assume that everybody at the conference is like you. They're good people who want to just talk about cyber stuff and computers and other things like the adjacent, like video games or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just assume that they're good people. Strike up a conversation. Don't be too upfront about it. I did that in the beginning. I was trying too hard, but like make it organic and just talk to people online, chat them up. That's what I do. It's like when you're at DEF CON, the person that's in front of you, the person behind you, try to find something to talk about. You're there anyway, so might as well. So that's how I did networking. I think it's huge.
Yeah, and that's awesome. All right. So say on the opposite side of that, right? Like what if someone, maybe in a Discord server or in the community that makes you feel stupid? You know what I mean? Like, because there's always going to be a troll, one of those keyboard warriors. So how would you give advice to those folks like, yo, don't take that personal, whatever. We can say all this stuff, but like, have you ever experienced that? Like,
oh yeah. I think not to put anybody down, I think there's a lot of people in our field who are insecure. Mm-hmm. And being insecure is fine. Projecting insecurity is not really. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of people out there who put people in compartments that are comfortable for that person. And they'll, if they feel bad, then they'll try to put them down. Mm-hmm. Just know that when that happens, I don't think they're bad people. They just don't know how to like process their stuff and control themselves. But just know that you may also be a threat to them. They may feel that you're a threat to them. So just worry about doing the right things for yourself, and not stress other people, because people are people. when it comes down to it. We may have probably better people in this field, but it's still like people have their stuff. Don't take it personally, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's facts. That is so true because yeah, people are people and we go through shit, and sometimes it's easier, like you said, the insecurity, maybe someone just like sitting on a computer all day, every day, and it's like I'm like whatever, intimidated or jealous or envy of this person because this person is doing quote unquote better. And it's like I want to try to put that person down. But on the flip side of that, I want to say this, you just have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I say that? Because, you never know when you're going to cross that person.
Yep.
And that's where it can get a little interesting, to say the least. We're live, so we'll keep the stuff off. But like, you just have to really, that's why I love everyone. I try to be nice to everyone. I don't know everyone on the other side of a computer, so they can be my neighbor, fucking for all I know. Like, they can be going to the same gym I go to. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, be nice. I always like to say, just don't be a dick, because what if you need that person one day, you just chop it up and you're just a dickhead. Now, you cross paths and you like, whatever, need that person just for a conversation, or maybe you have whatever, like the CPTS. Maybe it's like, oh, I don't have too many friends that have a CPTS, but like, and August will be like, oh, I know Pat because he did it. And then you can have a question for me for one of your friends. But if you were a dick to me, I would tell you, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Go kick rocks. So just be nice. Moral of the story, be nice. And
I have something on that, if that's okay.
Go for it. Love it.
As a red teamer, my first 7 months, I like to be a new red teamer, and I kind of got started out raw, to be honest. I probably started too early, but they saw enough of me, and I made it, and it felt pretty good on the other side.
Mhm.
But for the first 7 months, I had imposter syndrome like crazy. Like, it takes a while because you also are working with people. Some of those people have been doing it, and they don't see it because they're kind of in their own world, individual contributors, and they are confident. But like, when you're new, if you start in red teaming and you feel like if you belong, you're struggling, that's how I felt. So I just wanted to say that for everybody out there who does get started in OffSec. It can be something where, when you're starting out, you may not have that blind confidence. And I think that's good too, because then you know your gaps that you need to fill. But just know that others feel it too. So I just want to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. I truly believe like we all start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we're not all experts. We start from the bottom. Now we're here. So it's not like you were born with a Kali Linux or a Exicol machine or whatever the hell you use, Parrot, whatever the hell you're using. It's like, I'm going to learn these things. And that's why community is super important. So you can learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's another thing when you say, like, don't be a dick, because maybe you need someone, maybe you have a question, and, you never know in this industry. So how did your company? All right. So I guess we can jump in, because those are my talking points to community. So I guess we can go down these, see if there's any questions. If you have any questions while we answer these, just throw it in the chat and we'll go through it. Hey, Pat, blah, blah, blah. I have a question. Let's see. I'll throw this one up on here. I have a question in the same vein. What are you talking about? As a red teamer myself, adversary operations, threat engineering, what do you think separates a principal RTO from a principal PT?
You want me to start, or?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I think a couple things, and my experience may be different for private sector red teamers, so I just want to say that. But on our team, being a left seat or right seat, where we're like either you're in charge or you're the second in charge, is what separates, because you understand the full spectrum of all the stages, like building infrastructure, CTF infrastructure, phishing infrastructure. You're doing that, prepping for the op, making sure your people are doing good OSINT and prepping for the op themselves, and then going through the whole spectrum, making sure that ultimately you're responsible for making sure, if it's a local, which for us is like an assumed breached red team, which isn't really red teaming, but for this, that's one op we do. Understanding the full spectrum of what we're going to do through that op and making sure that happens. Mm-hmm. So some of your people may not be as knowledgeable, and so you got to fill those gaps and help show them things possibly, as well as knowing. I mean, I think personally, this is not a requirement for my team, we didn't have a dev. Always we have a dev now. I also wanted to understand how to build payloads, how to build a good Cobalt Strike artifact kit and aggressor scripts and malleable profile. That way, if something happened, as we've had before, I can spin up that architecture in those evasive payloads that we can get the job done. And I think that's really what separates. I personally believe, and I don't always see it, also being a good mentor is important, in my opinion, in leadership.
That's a good one.
Being a good hacker in itself, to me, is not enough to be a left seat or right seat where you are more of a principal red teamer, using that language.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Diversity brings knowledge. Yep. Let's see. Let's put this one up here. What's the most recent attack vector misconfiguration you came across in AD environment during a red team? What's up, D? Nice to see you.
I know that name. He did a CT recently, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So to me, man, they've been sticking me on a bunch of different things. So I haven't been in a pure AD in a while. I've done some persistence ops recently. One thing I would say that I think I see from a lot of my teammates has been the ESC1 vulnerability, ADCS stuff. Because it can be used for a number of things. And I think that's one that we commonly see. So that's what I would go with.
Awesome. Cool. All right, so let's see with the Stinger. Question: since August, the real red team, does it bother him when people call themselves red teamers when they just do pentesting? We were just talking about that offline. So,
not me. I see more of my blue team friends referring to, because they just don't know the difference. But I don't know. I just kind of stay in my own, worry about myself, and I think people who know. So
that's fair. He's like, I'll keep my motherfucking mouth shut. Yeah, I totally get it. Let's see. Another one from Stinger. Old schools I speak from this. Those engaged in a physical, secret squirrel style. We're going to consider red team is not offensive security pentesters.
That is the old school way of doing things. We actually do physical red teaming, both in general and also to engage cyber operations. I haven't done it yet. I haven't qualified in it, but yeah, I mean, I think they're both red teaming, but I can't remember the video, but there is a video on YouTube of like when the SEALs used to do red teaming, breaking the bases. Like that's where the word, I believe, comes from, is from like spec ops guys breaking the bases, getting the buildings, do whatever they can, break into a captain's office, whatever. So
yeah, stay under the radar. And all right, so let's see. It's Eric. So what do you recommend for jobs while attending college and to get a degree while working on my certs?
So I took a different path. I don't have a college degree. I went to the military. Honestly, there are a couple of different paths, I think. Sysadmin is a big one for red teaming. Like you will learn if you go red team, you kind of feel like you're a sysadmin, because everything you do, you're setting up infrastructure, you're threat modeling, which to define that term means that you are testing payloads or you're testing a vulnerability in a lab before you actually do it real world. You should never go into an op not knowing, is my payload going to bypass certain things? You want to test it. So I think sysadmin is a good thing to do. Help desk is a good place to start. I started later in life. I was already Intel and I'm like mid to lower 30s. So I made a pivot. So I felt like I needed to try and bypass as much as I could to get to the part that I wanted to do. But I think network engineering was also a good start for me. Sysadmin, network engineer. Blue teaming is also a really good spot for when I was talking about understanding detections and telemetry apps and understanding how blue teamers operate, and also understanding how attackers like in ransomware or APTs are doing things. I learned techniques from that. So
no, fair. So I guess I can answer a little bit on this because I do have a little college degree. So I'll touch up on this one. So yeah, I think the same thing. When I was in school, when I was doing my undergrad, I started undergrad a little later in life. I didn't go from like when I was 18 and then blah, blah, blah. I started my undergrad when I was 23. And so like I was already working as a field technician or field person. I was like installing servers, installing stuff. And I think the jobs, at least 18 years ago, are different than today. Because everything now is cloud. Before you would have to like build out a server, go install a server, do this. Now it's like you have an internet connection, you go to Azure, go to AWS, GCP. So I think it's a little easier now in the sense of like connecting, being a sysadmin, it's not like, at least from my understanding, I'm not a sysadmin anymore, but now like your sysadmin, maybe you'll understand more of Azure, Intune, AVDs, and all this stuff in the cloud versus when I was a sysadmin, we had to set up like ESXi servers and connect this to vSANs and SAN storage and EqualLogic and all this other shit, So I think getting that, help desk job, sysadmin or cloud admin, and then work on whatever cert, dabble in a few. And, when you say my certs, it all depends on what certs you want, like what avenue you want to go down in this career. So that would be my recommendation. And just, whatever tickles your fancy, go down the route. Don't do whatever August is doing or John or whoever else. Do what you want to do, like do whatever makes you happy. But let's see what else. I'd recommend getting help. Okay, yeah, Big Delta. I didn't even see that. Cool, good. Let's see. Thanks, chat. Blah blah blah. Great hearing from. I just want to see if there's anyone. I really need to know. Yeah, I really need to know what good companies are remote. So what you can do, obviously, we can touch on that a little bit about how to look for jobs, because I think that's a skill in itself as well. My recommendation, and I'll tag August in, like, have a few different versions of your resume, right? Like, I think a lot of people make a mistake of just like, okay, spray and pray. I'm going to make a fucking resume and just throw it out there. It's like we'll speak on a red team, right? You have a red team resume, and it's like, maybe there's more pen testing roles than red teamers. So it's like your thing is full of like red team ops, and you're applying for a pen tester, or you're applying for security engineering or OffSec security engineer, whatever these titles are. And it's like you're not tailoring it to, the actual role. So my recommendation, use ChatGPT. I know people fucking hated on me that said some bullshit on the internet, but I use that bitch for everything. You know what I mean? Throw that job description, say, hey, tailor my resume, upload your document, whatever, your Word doc, your PDF, say, tailor this job description, add key points, and see what it spits out. And maybe you have to alter it a little bit because, technology is not perfect, and just like tailor like that, boom, download that bitch and just upload it to that job. And, that would be my recommendation. What about you?
Well, first of all, I was going to say I could do a whole hour talk on HR issues, but yeah, I think that sounds good. I'm not going to say that I'm a pro at that. I think I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I was lucky that I had a security clearance, and this job required a security clearance. So that gave me a narrow, candidate pool to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm on a DoD NSA certified team, and there's a team in my hometown that I'm back living in, Wichita, Kansas. So I interviewed with them, and that's how I kind of introduced myself to the company. They didn't end up hiring me because I wasn't ready yet. They recognized me. They're like, we want to stay in contact. So then I ended up passing the OSCP. I learned one of the questions on the test is about team servers, Cobalt Strike. So I got some experience with that, and then went back up, and then I ended up getting the offer. So
sweet.
Every opportunity is an opportunity. Just because they don't pick you at that time may not mean they may know somebody who needs somebody. They may want you to later on. So that's why I look at it as be human persistence. So
love it.
Yeah.
That's a good one. All right. So that's that. Blah. These are going to be really quick. Getting a remote job with no previous experience is difficult. Yeah. I guess yes and no. Like, so my best friend, a good friend of mine, he helps me sometimes with these streams. He hasn't because he's been busy working. So he was working as a mechanic, like he worked at a car shop. And I had a friend, this goes back to the networking as well. I have a friend down in South Florida that he has an MSP. And he was like, hey, Pat, like, do you know anyone? I'm like, yeah, I do. But this person lives, in this state. And his first IT job has been there. I think he's been there like 2 years now, and it's remote. So you never know. It's obviously who you know and not so much what you know, because this was his first IT job ever. Like, he never worked IT, and he's not young, he's my age, a little older than me. So he's gotten into it in his late 30s. So it's never too late. But you just poke around and talk to people, establish those relationships, and you never know where that door will open.
Yep.
Hackspace Con, who's going? I'll be there. I'll be there. It's not too far from me. So I'll be at Hackspace Con in B-side Tampa. So are you going to Hackspace Con?
Yeah, I'll be at Hackspace Con. Also, besides KC, if anybody out there is going, but I don't think that's going to be common. So,
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So that's awesome. And blah blah blah. How did your company help? So I don't know if we went over that. Did we go over that question? How did your company help you get over that? I guess he was talking about that imposter syndrome and getting over that. Like, how'd you get over it?
they didn't really help me, and I don't think that's any fault of theirs, really. There was one or two people on the team that I kind of leaned on, and to a certain extent. The other piece was I just got to work. Like, whenever I feel like I'm not being seen in general, or that people aren't, I just get to work. I spend a lot of my free time studying things, reading, labbing things. And so I just think the more you practice, the better it'll get. And the best thing to do is take action when you don't feel like you're there. Because honestly, at some point, no one's there to prop you up. I hate to say it, but that's how it is, So being an operator, and I think private sector even more so, is a lonely thing. You're going to be one of the few people who can do a thing, and that's something to be prideful in, but it takes time to get there. So.
Yeah, no, facts. Yeah, for the imposter syndrome. Oh, thanks. Yeah, my crack, my green tea. And the same, can't wait to hack SpaceCon, B-side Tampa that weekend. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hanging out. And that should be fun. Well, I definitely old school. Old key. Yeah. Love to say, yeah, D, we have to get you on, man. I'd love to. And maybe like even on a hacking Saturday, like a hack along, showcase your DS Viper fucking tool. It's you did a great job with that, dude. Keep doing your thing, and you're doing awesome work. And let's see. Oh, he asked you something else. Do you think companies are shifting back to on-prem from the cloud infrastructure because of the lack of support in the cloud providers? Let's say the integration on new and all right. So I'll throw this up there, and you can go ahead. What are your thoughts on that one?
From what I'm seeing in the government, no. I actually just recently did an op with AVD, which, if you don't know what that is, Azure Virtual Desktop. So essentially, it's their way of having like an AD environment within a controlled Azure infrastructure. Like, you have to go through like an RDP service, to authenticate, and then be in. So we did an initial test of that before they roll it out, and I actually just did some Azure tool dev for our team, and I'm kind of building a methodology. I hear that from some people. I kind of feel like bias is involved there. Like, they don't want to learn cloud, and I get it. And there's a lot of people on my team that are the same way. I'm hoping to like kind of introduce that it's not so scary. And I think there are a lot of devs, or not devs, sysadmins that feel that way too. They want to be focused on AD, but I personally am not seeing it. That does not mean that's true, because I'm not seeing everything, but I'm not seeing a move back to on-prem.
Yeah, no, likewise. I think there is like some, like I have a friend, his dad owns a POS software company, and he's against the cloud. Like, Poppy over there is not, he has all his, not even a data center, not even a private data center. Everything's in his office in an MDF. Just everything is in there. It's like, I want to know who's going into my MDF and who's touching my physical server. Like, he doesn't trust anyone. So, but the majority of, if you're going to grow and your goal is to be like, scale, you're not going to be able to, at least at a decent dollar amount, you're going to scale in the cloud. We old as fuck. Yeah, we are. Like fucking 40 this year. Yeah. Christian, starting your CPTS Saturday, any last minute tips? Oh, kudos, dude. That's only a few days. So
it's the guy I was telling you about. That's my boy.
Sweet. So some tips for me, I practice what I preach, but I'm not the best at preaching this because note taking, right? The one thing about you went through all the pen testing, the course. So download every single cheat sheet. You know how like inside of the pathway for the whatever the path, when it said, oh, download the cheat sheet, I had every single cheat sheet, and then I combined all the PDFs or whatever it downloaded, and I literally like control F or whatever. Just that's what really, really helped me, because note taking, I'm very like nonchalant with my note taking. So sometimes if I reread my notes, I'm like, I don't even make sense of what I jotted down, because I was like in the moment. I'm like, oh, found CVE this and then did that, but what was the point of this? You know, like I just saw jibber jabber in my head. So that's what really helped me, and that's from the note taking perspective. And labbing and doing Dante, I did Dante prior. Dante really helped me like get into the groove of like pivoting and not doing no standalone machines. Like, oh, you could do 1,000 fucking hack the box machines, but it's like you're only on that standalone machine. You know, you're not going to be using, I can't even say that word, lit to goal, whatever, for pivoting and, you know, using these other tools to move around laterally. So, you know, maybe on an insane machine, a hard machine, yeah, you'll have, you know, some tricks and tips with those kinds of, but as far as last minute tips, if you know, do one of those pro labs, I think Dante is a good one, because that's more pen testing. Like we were talking about, like APT, Rasta Labs, and Zephyr's more like red teaming. But that's what I would say.
That's what I told him, actually. I wanted to piggyback on that to say one thing. Like, note taking is huge if you're going to become a pro. Like, we have a OneNote that we use. I'll have all my notes in a tab. We have an execution tab where you have a timeline, because part of it is when a blue team does detect us, they have to like ask, hey, is this you? And then we avow or disavow that it's us. We have to have where in the timeline we did it, what time, so we can correlate. Also, we put findings in there. You put all your like items for persistence, so you can clean up when you're done. Note taking is going to be huge if you want to do this professionally. Get used to doing it now. You do a pro lab. I mean, even on pro labs, I took a 2-month break from Zephyr, and if I didn't have my notes of like where I was and like, you know, if I set persistence, then I wouldn't have been able to get back there. So
exactly, huge. Yeah, exactly. And you know, I always preach it. And I'm probably the most honest person. Like, if I fuck up and I do some shit, I'm like, yo, you know, if I don't know something, I'm like, yo, I don't know it. You know, like, so like with me, like note taking, like I was good at it when I started, and I guess because, you know, you get into a rhythm, and it's like, you know it, but maybe August don't know what the hell I did, and now I have to leave the note for him. So if I get hit by a bus or hit the lotto, he can pick up from there. And it's like, what the fuck's Pat even saying? It doesn't make any sense. And that's what, you know, notes are really important. And, you know, if you're brand new to the game, you know, start, you know, doing walkthroughs for yourself on each box, and just get to the rhythm of taking screenshots, taking this, because, you know, especially if you want to start doing exams, like, because you have to do a report. And that's why I failed the CPTS the first time, because my report sucked. So, and I think I said that in my video. I'm like, I failed it because my port didn't get it. But
I did the same thing in BJPT. That was my first lesson in BJPT, is I didn't have good enough report. So
so report, and that's all it comes down to, documentation and feeding that to another person so they can read it. And the way you can practice is have one of your friends, like maybe, you know, Christian and August, you guys talk out, you know, in the real world, like, yo, like, does this make sense? That's what I do. You know, like I'll do a walkthrough, or like our team will do a walkthrough, and like, oh, let's review it, because maybe it makes sense for August, but not me. And like, yo, what do you mean by this? Bop, bop, bop. And you just clarify it. Which CompTIA certifications would you recommend? I want to work in cybersecurity, or the certification is not important. You know it if you know it. So I'll let you go. You can chat.
This one's tough because it depends is the answer, which is an Intel joke if you've done Intel. I think Security Plus is good. You get a lot of knowledge like across the industry from Security Plus. It gives you a good base to build on. If you want to work with the government, if you get an opportunity to work with the government, they require you to have Security Plus to be on their systems. It's just a compliance check. I personally jumped a little further. You probably should. I got CCNP was my first networking certification. And I like the CCNA, CCNP route because it's more practical. I think Network Plus is a little more knowledge, book knowledge. And I think wherever you can get your hands on things is more important. But I would say if you're going to do OneSec Plus would be the place to start.
And you did the CCNP when it's T-shoot, route, and switch?
No, I did the when it was brand new, the new format.
So, the enterprise.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It was a requirement
so like Encore, like Encore something.
Yep. It was cool. It was a requirement for my first job. They're like, if you can do it, you get the job. So I got it done. So.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess from my perspective, I guess the Security Plus, I think having that trifecta, if you're like brand new to the game, I don't know your experience or whatever, but if you're brand new, like A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus, so it gives you that foundation. And it's funny, I have a quick story about because I had a friend that said F the Network Plus. He went for CCNP. This is when it was T-shoot, route, and I remember he was an MDF. And an MDF, if those folks that don't know what that is, it's your server closet where all your network equipment is in your building. So you have your main feed that goes to your MDF, and then from there it goes to access switches, which is IDF. So the main distribution facility would be your main thing. So he was inside of an MDF, and inside that MDF, one of the uplinks were not working, right? And the fiber came out, and then inside of that, I guess while the cleaning people were, I don't know, Swiffering or whatever, they hit one of the RJ40 or RJ45 cables from the patch panel. So he has CCNP, but he didn't know how to, put back a keystone jack or key a patch panel. So that's where I think like Network Plus, you can learn some of those, 586B, 586A crossover, straight through cable, blah, 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 blah. All those little nuances that.
That's true. Yeah.
So like you said in the beginning of the stream, bro, like every cert has its purpose, right? We all have that would be my spiel. We'll take a few more, and I want to respect August's time. My play is the biggest one in account of education, home loan. Yeah, I think Big Delta, you have it good there. It is funny. I am labbing, and YouTube suggests the podcast to me. That's funny. Awesome. Cool. Glad you're here, chilling out, watching us bullshit. So many notes. Yeah, notes are super important, and I need to get back into that shit. Note taking. My note taking sucks. Writing walkthroughs help me a lot for reports, getting in the habit of the narrative of writing during the box, so you don't have to recall. Exactly. And that's another thing with reporting. Like, do it as you're going through if it's an engagement, because I used to fuck up there. I'm like, I'm just going to do everything and expect to remember, how did I get initial access? I found August's thing on hash at whatever. What is that site? I'm losing hash. What is, how's that? I forgot that site where you can find passwords. Hash, whatever. I don't remember now. I don't remember everything. Everything is in like a OneNote or everything. I don't remember. If someone isn't sharing knowledge, then link. Yeah. So if you want SpaceCon, Hack SpaceCon tickets, I think, just go to hackspace.com and, maybe you can check out that, or you can just go to their LinkedIn page. I'm sure it'll be there. Not sure the question exactly, but HackTheBox has some awesome modules on attack and WPA too. Yeah, I actually checked that out. It's a pretty new module. I think it was like in the last month and a half, 2 months. They started putting out wireless stuff, and it's pretty cool. And a friend of mine, my friend Jared, actually was the one that put that module together. But is it really possible to get a Wi-Fi password with WPA3 in under 1 hour? I'm going to put this up here. So what do you think?
I'm going to be honest. I'm not experienced enough with wireless to weigh in on that.
Okay, fair enough. I love honesty. So I think that's a tricky question, right? Because it all depends on how secure your environment is. Or, like for an example, I had a few friends here, a few friends that came into town, and I set up 2 access points in my house, and we did a lot of CTF wireless. Wireless, I like wireless stuff.
Yeah.
So I had one infrastructure that I put WPA Enterprise. So I had something called Radius authenticated to a lab AD that I had in my house. So I had them set up Wi-Fi Pumpkin, not Wi-Fi Pineapple, a Wi-Fi Pumpkin rogue access point to fake, so you can try to de-authenticate, try to simulate a real attack in the real world. Because it's not always just running Aircrack NG or Wi-Fi and just like capture deauth and get a key and then pass it through rocku.txt. It's not that simple, right? Sometimes you have to do some maneuvering. But is it possible? Yes, it is. But it all depends on the security. Just because the encryption is there, how weak is the actual password behind it? That's pretty much my take on that. Basics is a must. Thanks for your answers. Dehashed. That's it. Thank you. I can't see your name. It just says LinkedIn user, but thank you. Dehashed. $1 million question. Team Obsidian or OneNote, Notion? What's your favorite?
So, as some of us, we use Obsidian, and I don't hate it. Before, like I don't get to choose. We have to use OneNote at work, and part of the consideration there is, instead of Notion, is that because the government and protecting the data that we are looking at, it's medical PII, PHI, and NSA requirements. We have to use OneNote because it's local. It doesn't go in the cloud. So I've become really accustomed to that. And I think of Obsidian, I don't like how the screenshots have their own like tab. I can't remember the correct word is. On a personal level, I've liked Notion. I just wouldn't put anything that's data that I'd be worried about losing in there just because of the cloud piece. But that's my take.
Yeah, I do use Notion, and OneNote is where all my hardcore notes are. Like you said, you made a good point. Like it just sits in an environment that I have, and it resides on my NAS where I have local access. Notion is more like I just need pretty much my hack tricks of my own private hack tricks. Blah, 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 nothing. All right, Patrick Gorman. I'm not sure Patrick Gorman. No. All right, the password. Yep, exactly. Awesome. So, obviously we're a little over. I want to obviously respect your time. So thank you so much. And if those folks want to connect with you, if it's on LinkedIn, on Twitter, et cetera, how can they reach you? And
so I left Twitter, no longer on Twitter, but you can find me on LinkedIn at just, look for August Vansickle. That's honestly probably the best place. I'm also on the Blue Sky. One sec. Look it up. While I'm looking, also speaking of that last question on the GCIH, any SANS test, just make sure you are taking notes and having tabs and then looking at the things that, indexing. Indexing is key for SANS tests. So as long as you index, it's open book tests, you'll know where to look for your answers and then cover the common stuff. Blue Sky, I am Lord of the Nazgul. Sorry, Lord of the Rings reference there. .bsky.social. And if you search for Humphrey Hell Dogs, that's my secretive name. My dog's name is Humphrey. So anyway.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, this thing exactly. Do you know anyone who go to where I can learn everything about Wireshark? What is that guy's name?
I've got a book. One second.
Oh, fuck. I forget the guy's name that the Wireshark.
Practical packet analysis is a good one. Try Hack Me also has some good ones too.
Yeah. And there is one guy, like if you just Google David Bumble Wireshark, I think the guy, it was a guest on one of his podcasts, and he's really, really good with Wireshark. And, you know, there's other people. It all depends on how good you really want to get with it, right?
Chris Britton is another good one.
Yeah.
The anti-siphon training.
Yep.
Their network threat hunting. That's good.
Yep. Yeah, he's good. Look, try Hack Me and Hack the Box. Awesome. What is your dog's name?
You're not cracking my password, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. Awesome. Chris Green.
I've been
Chris Green.
before, so.
That is it. Chris Greer. Yeah. For YouTube Wiresheet. That's him. Thank you, Sabrinu Dante. I appreciate it. Awesome. So thank you so much for hanging out. I was gonna say tomorrow. So next week, hopefully I have someone pretty interesting. I don't want to announce it yet. I want to make sure it's actually going to happen. But, you know, obviously whoever comes to these streams, I really appreciate it, hanging out and, you know, meeting people in the community. So thank you, August, for hanging out with me this evening. And have an awesome night, everyone. And until next time, bless up.